Hi, my name is Milton, and I am going to talk about what happened on August 1809. Every time we are more and more Ecuadorians in the world, and the expression I don't know is the most common answer among Ecuadorians than over time because fewer people don't know or forget what our history is. It's very important to remember the history of Ecuador that began in 1809 because it marks a beginning and the end than in the Kingdom of Quito as it was called at that time. A little more than 200 years ago, Ecuador and a great majority of the territories of Latin America would be under the regime of the kings of Spain, France, England, and Portugal, so most of the inhabitants of those towns began to experience ideas of freedom, since in Spain there was a great fighter named Napoleon Bonaparte who began to conquer the territories near Spain and expand their domains throughout Europe. Thus, in the towns of South America, especially in the real province of Quito, their inhabitants, anxious to be free, taking the example of the news coming from Spain, began to gather little by little those who shared, until in 1808, led by Eugenio de Santa Cruz y Espejo, great heroes of freedom gathered in the month of December of the same year, that meeting which was called Conspiracy of Christmas. When the governor of these territories found out about the meeting, he sent them to jail. This imprisonment lasted 3 months, during which the idea of a free Quito continued to develop. More and more people joined the cause. Thus, on a cool night, one of the pro-independence heroes, Manuela Cañizares, gathered in her house with all the people who followed his ideology. As was to be expected because of the fear of being assassinated, many didn't want to continue with the cause, to which Manuela said,
"Cowards, men of little faith, born for servitude, what are you afraid of? There is no time to lose."
It was that an ex-army man named Juan de Salinas went out to look for support from the army, and in that vast search he succeeded. He returned to Manuela's house, where he happily told them, "I got it. I have the support for the independence cause." Then the undeniable happened. Antonio Ante, one of the heroes, was the one personality delivered in Carondelet to Count Ruiz de Castilla himself, who was the proxy of the kingdom. In the early morning of August 10, 1809, the official notice by which he communicated that he had ceased his functions and that from now on the sovereign board, previously appointed, was in charge of the government of audience and he was under arrest. The morning of August 10, 1809, the Kingdom of Quito donned free and many flags with white and red colors hung on the balconies and roofs of the house of the city as a symbol of independence and freedom. It was the first step for the freedom of the rest of the nations, since from that moment on it gave light to the other towns so that they could also be free. And for that reason, Quito is currently known as Luz de America, which means Light of America. The following year, these heroes were assassinated by the Spaniards' army. It seemed that all the struggle was coming down, until some time later Antonio José de Sucre leading the troops of Indians and Criollos that were more than 3,000 people rebelling against the Spanish armies, defending the ideals of freedom, confronting on the slopes of the Pichincha volcano and defeating the Spanish army. Freedom was beginning. It is very important to remember our history to know who we are and we are going to be, as well as to know what we Ecuadorians are made of.